What is happening, everybody, and welcome to episode 374 of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast here on the new Cyclone Sports Podcast Network. I am one of your hosts, Sam Smith. Glad to have you with us here on this Saturday. And I am joined, as always, by the usual suspects. Mark Allred. How are you, Mark?
I am hung over. I am absolute hung cheese today. I went out and had a great time with some awesome friends last night. We went to the Blue Moon Kitchen and Bar with some amazing people. Had a little bit of a holiday get together, and I went overboard. So I'm not feeling great today, but excited to be back and talking bees.
Well, at least you learned your lesson. And we are also joined here by David Collins. David, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, fellas. One more week, and I'm off for 5 weeks, so I'm looking forward to that. Christmas is just around the corner. We don't have any snow here. It seems like our winters are getting later and later every year, so might have a green Christmas this year, but we'll see what happens. Rough week for the Bruins, but looking forward to getting into the topics that we have for today.
Rough week for the Bruins indeed. And it's going to be a lot of our conversation today. First of all, if you're watching us live on YouTube, if you have not yet, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast, the Black and Gold Productions YouTube channel. And of course, if you have not yet, if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and iHeart or whatever you're listening on, make sure to drop us a follow and a 5-star rating. It helps us out big time and makes us one of the top hockey podcasts out there. So as David just said, it was a rough week for the Bruins, and it really, really was because the road trip, the Pacific Northwest road trip began for this team, and God, it was brutal. But last Saturday, they took on the Philadelphia Flyers. It was our last glimmer of hope before disaster struck, because the Bruins came back from a 3-1 deficit in the third period and beat the Flyers 4-3 in overtime. Look, they came back. Trent Frederick had a 2-goal game. You had the game-tying goal from Brad Marchand, who's been heating up as of late. We'll talk about him later in the show. And, of course, Pastrnak and Zacha, their second overtime connection in that week. David, I'll start with you. What did we see out of this team on this past Saturday against the Flyers? And, yeah.
Well, if you remember back to last week when we talked on this podcast, we said that we wanted to see them come out and kind of blow it out of the water. Big win, 5-1, something like that. It really felt like they came in and kind of played to the level of their competition. Michkov is a menace. I give that guy all the credit in the world, but the Bruins definitely should have ran away with this one. I thought Philadelphia's goalie played really well, but again, this game should not have been this close. Marchand had a beautiful goal, top shelf, short side, gorgeous. And again, we talked about it last podcast. We have mentioned that Pastrnak was taking on more of a facilitating role and that Zacha was heating up. And, I mean, you couldn't have written it any better. It was a pass from Pastrnak to Zacha in overtime to win the game. So definitely a bright spot. I like these close games, even if they're against bad teams, just because they're fun to watch. But unfortunately, it was the start of not good things moving forward, but we'll get into that now in a few minutes.
Mark, what are your thoughts here on this one?
Yeah, I mean, 2 points is 2 points. This team is currently structured to play these tight games. I think that's going to be, kind of the thing that's going to go on this year, regardless of the next, 2 games that we're going to talk about. But it was really good to see Trent Frederick, with offensive. When he gets going, the team's just that much better, And I think we need to see much more of that moving forward. He's a player that's well liked in the room, and to be honest with you, if there's going to be a domino that falls, if the Bruins continue to just play like shit. That could be a player that is removed from the team and traded. So that's kind of what I think. And the spark that he gave. No, that's another one. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the chat, but yeah, I mean, it's just things got to get better. And this was a good start to the week, but unfortunately, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it just didn't. They came back, they got the win, and that was all they needed there. But then they go and they play Winnipeg, and for the first 10 minutes of this game, they were the better team, and then it all went to shit because they get their asses handed to them 8-1 on the road. Absolute beatdown. This is the third time Swayman's given up 6+ goals in a game this season. Like, I don't end my live commentary streams early very often. I've had to do that more than once this season. I shouldn't have to. That's not a thing. Okay? This game happened to coincide with the late night breakfast that my school puts on during finals week. So when the Jets made it 6-1, I literally said, and I quote, "All right, I'm done. I'm going to get a donut." So I ended stream, went off and got a donut, and walked back. And by the time I got back, there were 3 fights and 2 goals for the other team. Jets win 8-1. Absolute beatdown. I don't even know what to say about this game. The penalty kill was absolutely brutal in this game. They gave up 3 power play goals. Mark, what went wrong?
They allowed the first goal. That's my I don't know. It just seems like when they allow the first goal, it seems like the wind is deflated out of their sails. It seems like they're giving up. They just don't have any fight after that. And this was a great example of that. Swayman, you can't blame the loss completely on him, but he's not playing well against teams that are currently in a playoff structure. That's a little bit concerning to me, in my opinion. Just not seeing a good effort from him. And that goes for the whole team too. I mean, it's just hot garbage. But I don't know. It's just so hard to talk about because, you invest your time as a fan. We are fans, and you stay up late for these games, and then they put that on, and you got to get to work at 4:00 the next morning. So, thanks, Bees. Appreciate that, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for making me stay up and watch this mess. David, what are your thoughts on that? On this one? Put it into words if you can.
Well, we kind of mentioned that this was a bit of a barometer game. One of the better teams in the NHL, if not the best team in the NHL right now. And we wanted to see where the Bruins kind of stood next to them. Bruins have looked good against the lower tier teams and some of the teams in around where they are in the rankings. But it seems like those upper tier teams, they're struggling a lot with, which kind of, I guess it makes sense based on, the results that we've gotten so far this year. But I guess there was a glimmer of hope from most of the fans that, maybe we can go in the West Coast and kind of make a showing, show everyone that we're for real. And they kind of went the other way, which is super unfortunate. This game for me stings a little bit more than the Kraken game. One of the big takeaway points for me was the fact they only had 24 shots. It's hard to put the puck in the net when you're only getting, 24 shots per game. I think if you were to average that, you'd be, close to, if not the bottom team right now. So like Mark said, that first goal and just being with, it's in the first, it's early. It's so hard to come back if you get deflated early. It's so hard to get yourself out of the tank at that point. I'm hoping that management is looking at this and seeing the deficiencies within the roster. If they're planning to make a run, I hope that's what they capitalize on at the deadline. If they do plan to make some moves, if they go the other way and they kind of want to shake it up the other way, then I hope they can see the people who want to be here, the positive lights that we've had, and kind of highlight them. But it's one of those games. It's hard to find a lot of positive takeaways from something like this.
I was saying, when the 3 fights happened, when Zadorov and Frederick and Kastelik all fought and everything, after they made it 6-1, I said, "Oh, so now you care." Now you care about this game after the fact that you're getting your asses kicked by 5 goals on the road. I mean, I wasn't expecting a win, but I was expecting effort, and we just didn't get that. I tweeted on Tuesday when this game went down. I said, quote, "So when are we going to have the discussion that the Bruins are the best of the bad right now? They had all this momentum, and the minute they play a good team, it goes to crap." So that's my discussion point. We're going to talk about that during consistency, the inconsistency topic of discussion later on. But they just play a good team, and they just disappear, and I don't understand why. The compete level is not even close to where it needs to be. It's inexcusable, honestly. I think it's inexcusable getting your asses kicked by 7 goals on the road.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I take away from the Bruins playing higher caliber teams is these higher caliber teams have a book on the Bruins. Like, they find their weaknesses and they continue to attack and attack and attack, and the Bruins do not have anything for that. They're just mentally, physically unprepared for teams like this. And if you're going to be a playoff team, you have to beat teams like this in the regular season. It's fact. And if you don't, you're going to be a one and done, even if you make the playoffs. And right now, if you look at the standings, the Bruins are in third place. They're 15, 13, and 3 with 33 points. Terrible goal differential. And not great at home and not great on the road. So, you got to figure things out before management is forced to move somebody that, the room doesn't really want to, move on from. Sorry.
How is this team in third place? How?
I don't
Does
get
the
it.
Atlantic Division suck this year or something? How in the world are the Bruins in third place? They shouldn't be. With a team that they're icing. They have lost 16 of their first 31 games. How are they in third place? I genuinely don't understand that idea. It doesn't make sense. So you'd think that maybe they'd take this game and they'd respond well against the Kraken. No. They lose 5-1 Thursday night to the Kraken. David, you said the Jets game stings. I completely disagree. I think the Kraken game stings way more. This is a game they should have won. This is a game where they were down only by 1 going into the third period. This is a game that they were the better team through the first 2 periods of this game, and they let it go. They let it slip out of their hands again. I don't understand that it's like the minute they get to the third period, they just stop playing hockey. They give up goals that they shouldn't give up. Like the controversy of the Vince Dunn goal. Did he bat it out of the air with a high stick? I don't know. One angle says yes, the other one says no. I don't care. They still lost. They still got beat by a team they should not have lost to. Mark, what are your thoughts on this one and why this team just folded in the third period?
I would think Bear Force One has it right there. There's way too many passengers on this team, and that's a fact. You got to beat teams like this. This is no. I'm tired of all the excuses and so on. I don't know. I don't have anything to say, to be honest with you, because it's frustrating. It really is frustrating on how inconsistent this team is. On paper, we said it back in preseason that this was a team that is built for, to play hard games, to rough up some players if needed and so on. And I don't know, we're just not seeing it. It's almost like other teams around the league aren't afraid of the Bruins like they once were.
David?
The reason that I am not too upset about this game I guess there's a couple reasons. One, they had 34 shots on net. That's a positive. Two, I feel like the errors in this game are easier to correct than the errors that were in the Jets game. What I mean by that, the early goals. You take a bad penalty, 15 seconds into the game or something, and they score 26 seconds into the game. Those things are easy to correct. Obviously, the offensive output in terms of actually getting the puck in the back of the net wasn't there, but I think it's easier to correct what they did in this game versus the one against Winnipeg. The defense was really bad. They've looked, I'll say, around average for the better part of the last couple of games that we've looked at. They were really bad in this one, but the offense, in my opinion, was there. The goalie just kind of stood on his head. They were, I think it was it 2-1 or 3-1 going into the third period?
2-1.
Right? So, like, you're there, and then you have a bad period. That goal that you were talking about where the guy batted out of midair, it seems like that really deflated them at that time, and they kind of just lost it from there. It's one of those things they probably just need to get out of their own way. Don't let things, it's one of those things where, one play happens, you let it go, you move on to the next one. And it doesn't seem like they were able to move past that goal, that call, whatever you want to call it. So I don't know. I'm not overly upset with this one. If there's any clarification needed on that, feel free to let me know. But I'm fine to disagree with you guys on this one. But yeah, I'm not worried about this one, to be honest.
My question is, they give up that goal to make it 3-1, regardless if it was a high stick or not. I don't care. They're just still down 3-1. It's like when they give up a goal, they lose all footing. They don't have any momentum. They just stop skating really well. Because before that, even in the beginning of the first couple minutes of the third period, they were still flying up the ice. They were still bouncing off the walls. They were still taking quality chances. Like, they had a good chance point blank in front to start the third period. I think it might have been Pasternak, a point blank chance in front, and he just got stopped by Grubauer. And then 30 seconds later, Kraken score, and they fall flat. They fall about as flat as a Pepsi being sitting out for a week. I like, it doesn't make sense to me. Speaking looks, and that's based on consistency, and we're going to talk about that now. Consistency on this team has been an issue from the very beginning this season, and we're starting to see patterns now that really make me question on if this team is a playoff team. Everybody's been saying they're built for the playoffs, which is great, awesome, fantastic. You're built for the playoffs. You're built for tough games. Great. How are you supposed to make the playoffs with this current core? If you're built for the playoffs and you can't make them because of how bad you've been playing, then what's the point? You're supposed to also be built for a regular season and a playoff team. They thought that when they built this roster, they thought the regular season would be a breeze because they were like, oh yeah, we're made for the playoffs. We're not made for the regular season. We are made for the playoffs. Well, you also need a good regular season team to get to the playoffs. And right now, we are not getting it. David, I'll start with you. What needs to change? I feel like I'm starting to turn into a broken record. What needs to change? What do they need to do? But that's the question. What needs to change?
So I think the only consistency within Bruins right now is inconsistency. It seems like there's a lot of ups, there's a lot of downs. There's very little, what we'll call like a straight line when you're talking about the way that they're playing. We've changed coaches. They were up at the start, and now they're on a two-game losing streak, and it's not looking good. So now what's the next domino that falls? Is it the players? Is it the GM? Because you can't really blame the coaching staff anymore. So they need to find someone else to blame it on. It's funny. We talked about it last week. Remember, at the start of the season, we were trying to blame people for what was going wrong. And then over the last couple of games, we were talking about, well, who are the ones that were doing things to make it right? And now we're back into who do we blame because it's wrong? We're just as inconsistent as the Bruins are playing right now. So, I guess, like you said, there's very little consistency outside of a couple unfortunate injuries to Lindholm. I can't think of any others that were out for an extended period of time right now based on like the regular roster. So I don't think you can really blame it on injuries or people not being available. You can still use the excuse that there were key players that were not ready at the start of the season. But like we spoke about last week, we got to get to a point where we turn that corner, and you got to shake the rust off at some point. So the inconsistent play, the inconsistent coaching, it seems like there's a bit of a contrast between the product put on the ice and what the coaching staff needs in order to succeed. So it's going to be interesting going into this deadline. Obviously, we're a couple of months away still, but I'm really interested to see what they focus on. So similar to what I said earlier, I really hope that Sweeney and Neely take the good and the bad and really weigh it out and kind of look at what their options are in terms of where this roster can go next year and beyond. But we're in a bit of a tailspin right now.
Mark?
Yeah. Accountability up and down the lineup is is one that I like to point out. I don't know what could be changed, to be honest with you. If you pull off a big trade, I honestly don't think that that's going to change. You're going to have to pull off a trade that will involve multiple players to really change the outcome of this season, in my opinion. But if you do make a trade, I would rather see it sooner rather than later. Just for the chemistry factor, getting somebody new in there, getting them accustomed to the team and your air quote culture, which isn't much of a great culture right now. And I see some people in the chat saying that if Don Sweeney's on the hot seat, and David, you mentioned that too. If there's going to be a GM move, it's not going to happen during the season.
Right.
That's something that will happen during the off season, particularly before the draft and free agency, because you want somebody new in there to start those festivities off on the right foot. But I don't know. It's really hard to explain my thoughts on this team's inconsistent play, because they know that they're better than this, but I don't know what is in between their ears that's going on up and down the lineup when they don't have any finish, execution. It's just very piss poor hockey, in my opinion. And you got rid of the coach. You got rid of Cassidy back in the day. You got rid of Montgomery. You got a new voice behind the bench, and it seemed to be on a good start with Joe Sacco's tenure as a head coach. But we're now seeing times of Jim Montgomery back behind the bench with these last two games and getting blown out on the scoreboard. It's just tough. It's really tough, and it's hard to explain. Something's got to happen. Whether you get a shrink in there, some kind of doctor to figure this shit out, because it's not good. It's not good at all. And I cannot look at this Eastern Conference Atlantic Division standings right now and believe that this team is in third place. It's crazy.
Bruins have the second worst goal differential in the Atlantic Division, only in front of Montreal, who is in dead last. Minus 23 goal differential. If we take a look at the power play, the power play is still absolute shit. 12.6% on the power play. The penalty kill, after Thursday and after Tuesday, I'm sure it's not much better. Penalty kill is 22nd at 77.1%. So, again, it's the same thing. Again, under Montgomery, the power play and penalty kill was bad. Somehow, the power play has gotten worse, and the penalty kill is still not great. I don't understand. They tease the idea of changing the power play unit, right? They practice it. They go with Pasternak and Lohrei and Brazo and Geeky and Coyle. And they do it in a game and they score immediately. And then they go away from it. And they go back to Lindholm and Zacha and Marchand and McAvoy and Pasternak, when it has been proven for the first 2 months of this season that power play unit is awful. Hot garbage for the first 2 months. And yet they still ask how they have the worst power play in the NHL. Oh, I don't know. The power play unit might need to be changed. The penalty kill is still not great. It doesn't make sense to me. I feel like I'm saying that a lot. It does not make sense how this team is bad, or as bad as they are. How in the world have you not made a change to your power play scheme when you have the worst power play consistently for about a month? How have you not made a change? That's my question. David?
Yeah. I don't like these changes are so hard to make in the middle of the season. When you're changing power plays and you're changing penalty kills, if you're putting someone else in charge of those things, it's hard to do it on the fly. Like you almost need a training camp to work on these things, or like some sort of break to work on these things. It's hard to fix these things mid-season when you've been practicing how to do it one way for so long under someone. If someone comes in with a new idea like that, it's hard to make that change fast. It could be one of those things that, like, maybe they're just going to be bad this season at special teams. And, that is quite a possibility. It may not get better no matter what they do. This may just be what we're dealing with this year. But I don't think Don Sweeney is one to sit by and let things fall apart. So it'll be I feel like the first deal that happens, because obviously the Bruins are going to make a trade. No matter what, there's going to be some sort of trade that is made at some point this season. And I think the first trade is going to kind of give us a temperature of what we're dealing with. And then we can kind of temper our expectations based on that. But when it comes to changing special teams and even change on 5-on-5 philosophies and things, there's a lot that goes into it. And it's not something that's going to change overnight or going to fix itself overnight. So it's going to take a while, whether they're looking into it now and thinking about replacing, Chris Kelly and others. I really don't know what to say. It's just, we could be dealing with this for longer than we expect is kind of what I'm trying to get across.
Hey, I want to touch on what Colby Mayer brought up. He says, if possible, bring in Wahlstrom. He's on waivers last I heard. Yes, he's on waivers, and we're going to hear if he got claimed probably in about a half an hour from our buddy and insider, Elliot Friedman. This kid is not the answer. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people out there are really, kid from Maine. I get it. New England, blah, blah, blah. He has some skill, I just don't. He's got 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. He's a -6 in 27 games played. I don't think this is the answer. If you're going to make an addition, here's my opinion. I say ride with what you have in Providence right now instead of bringing people in, and then go from there. If the call-ups don't work out, we'll talk about them later on. If they don't work out, then make drastic measures to get somebody in here that's going to really help this team. But I don't think Wahlstrom is a game changer for this club. I don't think he's going to change the fate at all. And I know we're a little light on the right side and everything, but I don't see him being a savior of any type.
My question is about that. As much as I agree with the fact that you wouldn't be a be-all, end-all game changer, isn't anything better than nothing? Right? That's my question, though. That's my only thing. If they were trying to make any sort of move right now to change this team and try to make it better, anything could be better than nothing. What has Tyler Johnson done? Right? I know he hasn't played in a ton of games, and that's partially on why Mark McLaughlin's been playing a lot. I'm not really sure why he's still up with the NHL club. I think he should go back to Providence right now after this road trip. I just don't see a lot out of him to say, yeah, he should stick around the rest of the season. No. They wanted to give him an extended look, and I don't think it's working. But I also am not seeing a ton out of Tyler Johnson either. And I'm really disappointed because I remember on this very podcast a couple of months ago when he was signed into a PTO, we said, oh, yeah, this guy's going to be fun to watch. He's going to bring some, like, very good scoring touch to this team. No. No, it's actually the exact opposite. I'm not seeing enough out of him. I'm not seeing enough out of McLaughlin. And I think McLaughlin should get sent down. I don't think Johnson will have much of a role. I would not be surprised if we see him on waiver, if we don't see him on waivers soon.
Who?
Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I don't know. It's a 1-year deal, league minimum. It could be, you could see him on waivers here coming up soon. And then maybe they'll go to your point. Maybe they'll bring up some people from Providence. Lettieri's been heating up. Poitras been heating up. I'm not sure why he's still down there. I'm still not sure why he's down there at this point. If you're looking for any sort of offensive spark, look at what's underneath you. Poitras got a 5-game goal streak going on right now. Okay.
Yeah, but so did McLaughlin. McLaughlin got 5 in a row, and he got called up. I mean, we'll talk about this when we get to the Providence update.
Yeah, but I want to make this point before I forget it. Poitras been there and got sent down, and now he needs to go back up. McLaughlin hasn't been there in a minute. That's the only difference about that, though. So, anyway, and maybe this consistency, especially in their back end, is possibly because of Hampus Lindholm being out, right? Hampus Lindholm still out for a while. We still don't have a timeline on when his return is. When he first went down, Montgomery said weeks. Sacco a couple weeks ago, still saying weeks away. Do we have a timeline of when Hampus Lindholm could start skating? We haven't even seen him on the ice at all, which is definitely concerning. He's on IR. He got banged up in the Blues game back in November. We haven't seen him since. Is there an update on him if we know any, Mark?
I haven't heard anything. Just basically what you just said. Every report seems that he's weeks out. And you know what's funny is, last year we wouldn't be saying this, but we certainly do miss a Hampus Lindholm this year. I can comfortably say that he has been by far one of the better defensemen on this team. And really, before the injury, was really trying to, change his season around or year around from previous seasons. Hopefully he gets back sooner rather than later, because he was a contributor. He was out there giving it all and doing a good job, and then all of a sudden, what was it? A shattered knee or something like that?
It was a kneecap issue.
Yeah. So, hopefully he gets back sooner rather than later. And, kneecap, being a defenseman, you're putting a lot of torque on that part of the body. You could be susceptible to re-injuring that particular area of your body too. So, I don't know. I just want to see him back. It's, because he was pretty much the only one that really showed any effort so far this year. I mean, McAvoy has got, times when he plays a real good, heavy game, but there's other times and he's soft as shit too. So, I don't know. Something's got to change sooner or later, whether it be, non-sitting, low-rye. Sitting low-rye is a little bit crazy to me, man. Even though he's not playing great, but certainly playing a little better than other players.
Before I get to your point, before I get to you, David, I want to point out, okay, Jordan Oesterle, I don't see it. A lot of people are seeing it with Oesterle and how, like, oh, he's great in his back end. He's great getting pucks out. I don't see it. I don't see him sticking around much longer on the NHL roster. I hate to crap on him. I obviously don't want to. I don't see it. And with all due respect, I see Matt Grzelcyk 2.0 that's a little bigger out of Jordan Oesterle. And I don't think that's what the Bruins need. That's the last thing they need, actually.
Well, when he first came up, he was doing really good with McAvoy.
Well, yeah, but
I was quite surprised, but
Yeah.
and I could see the comparison of Matt Grzelcyk, a better Matt Grzelcyk with size, but his mobility and his transition was really good. But then all of a sudden, he gets a half a dozen games in, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh my God, what happened to you?
Yeah, like he turns over the puck too much for me. The decision making is not there. Yeah, he's good at breaking pucks out of his own zone. Yeah, so was Matt Grzelcyk. That was the only thing he was kind of, all due respect, good at, was getting pucks out. That's all Oesterle is. He's good in transition, and that's great. But we need that. But Lohrei can do that too, and arguably better than Oesterle in certain situations. So I don't think Lohrei should be sat tonight. If anything, I'm sitting Oesterle tonight. Let him see. I know he has more experience than Lohrei and Wotherspoon. I get it. 400 NHL games. I understand. I don't see why Lohrei should be sitting upstairs. I don't know. I think Lohrei should be playing with McAvoy tonight. I would put Wotherspoon with Carlo and Zadorov with Peak. I don't like Zadorov and Carlo together. That just seems like two pylons playing. Like, I don't know. Zadorov has not been great. Carlo has not been great. I think they need to split them up. Wotherspoon and Carlo could work. What I've seen out of them this year a couple of different times is that they're good in their own end and they're good at getting pucks out. Peak and Zadorov have always played well together. I don't know why they split them up. And Lohrei and McAvoy, we know how there's natural chemistry there. So I just think that's what they need to do. I don't know. Let's talk also, David, let's talk about Elias Lindholm. Because he got injured on Thursday against the Kraken. And I guess he's going to be fine. So for tonight against the Canucks, although I don't really know. So what do we need here out of Elias?
It's one of those things where you kind of look back at the offseason when we first got these players and what we kind of expected out of them versus what we've gotten. At the beginning of the season, Elias Lindholm looked like he kind of came as advertised. He was exactly what the Bruins fans expected, and it just seems to have fallen off. He's played in 31 games, so I believe right now the Bruins have played 31 games. So he's played all the games so far, but he's got 13 points and he's a -3. Like, if you're anchoring a top first or second line with players like Zacha and Pasternak and Marchand and these type of players, you're hoping for more, more, I guess, offensive consistency. When it comes to the injury, I don't think there's going to be anything big. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the lineup today. If he misses one game, then I expect him to be back the next game. It doesn't seem like it was anything that's going to stick around a long time. In terms of Hampus Lindholm, however, we talked about this last week as well, and how Sweden left him off the Four Nations roster. And there was a report out there that Sweden was a little bit nervous that Hampus Lindholm wasn't going to be ready. Whether that means he wasn't going to be back in time or he was going to be back, but he wasn't going to be, I guess, ready for a tournament like that is yet to be seen. But I'm not surprised that he's still out. I really do think that this is something that's going to linger a lot longer than we expected. It's too bad because he really did look healthy this season before this. I'm going to call it a freak injury because it's not something you see very often. And broken bones like that, I'm not going to call them injury prone because those things are not what I would consider injury prone. Injury prone to me is more like soft tissue, upper body, shoulder, thing like that. This is more of just a freak thing. But he played in 17 games. He had 7 points. I think it's fair to assume the two players that have replaced him were Oesterle and Wotherspoon. Everyone else was pretty much consistent in the lineup up until that point. We've only gotten 3 points out of them. Wotherspoon has nothing. Oesterle has 3 assists. So if you look at, if he had 7 points over 17 games, we've had 14 games without him. you're looking at probably another, 6 or 7 points, and we've only gotten 3. These are small things to consider, but they can go a long way. And defensively, he looked good. He was hard to get by. He's good at outlet passes. He's a very smart hockey player. So yeah, the Bruins are definitely missing this guy. And I think some of the upper echelon players are struggling because of that. And, it's a bit of a domino effect. Obviously, we're not going to blame all the downfall on losing this one player, considering how consistent they've been with health this year. But he's definitely had a negative impact with having him out. There's no doubt about that one.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to see Hampus Lindholm get back soon. That's because I think they could really use a guy like him right now. I want to see more out of Wotherspoon. I do. I want to see more out of him, more on the offensive side. This is his second year with the team. Hasn't gotten a goal. Now, I'm not saying every defenseman has to score, but, hey, Lindholm scores sometimes, McAvoy scores sometimes, Carlos scores sometimes. I'm looking for it out of Wotherspoon and Peak. I'm not saying you have to score 20 goals in the season and be Cale Makar, but I'm saying, hey, I'm looking for a couple of goals here. I think it's a great point. A great point here. Kevin says, I think fans are thinking every defenseman should be putting up Makar point numbers or something. And if you think that, you're delusional. But hey, at the same time, I want to see a couple of nice goals out of these guys. I just think we're missing that. I think some more goals from your blue line mean more success towards your team. Somebody in my chat comes in and says, defenseman goals are great because they kind of save the offense's ass when they're having a bad night. Which they've been having a lot more of those recently.
Well, it's even the assists, right, Sam? Like, a lot of the assists that come from defensemen are shots from the point that hit off a body or hit off a stick or something. So usually those goals are just, seeing eye goals that don't touch anything. But it's it's a great point. Those shots from the point can create those type of chances, and those goals can be really deflating for a defense when they, trickle in like that. So between Wotherspoon and Osterley and Peak, even, if we don't get the goals, we need to see some sort of offensive output. So it's either goals or assists at this point. But to touch on the Lori thing you had mentioned, he's played 26 out of 31 games. He's got 13 points. He had 12 points, 1 goal, 11 assists, but he's a minus 12. Like, he's out there for a lot of goals. There's 2 players on the Bruins right now who are above a +3 in a plus-minus. Do you guys want to take a stab at who they are?
Koepke?
Yep.
Kastelik.
Yeah, that's the 2 players. Like, basically fourth liners, right? Like, those are the only 2 players that are above a +3. The 5 that are currently in the positive are Kastelik, Beecher, Zadorov, McAvoy, and Koepke. Those are the only ones with a positive plus-minus right now.
Zadorov, that's wild. I feel like that's like, I'm not saying you're wrong, but like I feel like that should be wrong because like I feel like he's like on the ice for a lot of team goals that go the other way.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's take a look here. We talked about it during consistency. Let's talk about the Providence Bruins. They have been red hot recently.
Wagoon.
What?
A wagon.
A wagoon, if you will. Yes. They have won 5 straight games. Matt Poitras heating up. Merkulov is heating up. Lettieri's playing well. Lascelles, finally, getting a couple of goals here recently. Finally. Including a nice goal last night. Hey, this is a step in the right direction for your minor leaguers, your prospects, your young core coming up. How long until we see Poitras and Merkulov come up? I mean, I feel like especially Merkulov, I think he's kind of outgrown the AHL, if you will. Mark?
Yeah. Providence is definitely a wagon right now. They're playing so much better, but it's before this 5-game winning streak, you could see signs of Boston and Providence playing pretty much the same. You know, in a real tight, it's so weird how the NHL Atlantic Division and the AHL Atlantic Division are so similar. It's so tight. It's crazy. Yes, there are players down there that are playing well. But I look back at Mark McLaughlin, and when he ripped off 5 goals in 5 straight games, I had a feeling that he was going to get the recall. And he did. But what has he done since he came from Providence? Not much. I am totally not sure. And now listen, people are going to freaking hate this. And I know Mike Sullivan in the chat from Something Bruin Hockey Podcast is probably not going to like hearing this. But I don't think that like a player like Poitras, who's been red hot lately, I did not like his game when he went down. He was a deer in headlights. It just didn't really seem comfortable. But now I think that comfort is coming in, and he's playing a lot better, and he's scoring with consistency. That's something the Bruins look at, the NHL Bruins look at for a recall. I'm not sure if he gets into the NHL lineup anytime soon. I think an injury, like we said it in our pre-show, Sam, that you said an injury probably to Elias Lindholm. Poitras is probably on a plane, you know, sooner or later. I'm not totally sure if Poitras is the answer to be called up and warrant, you know, to be given games. I don't think that that's going to change anything. And if it doesn't change anything and he's not put in the right position to succeed, surrounded by other players, I say leave him in Providence. Let him get consistent down there, build up even more of a repertoire. I don't know. That's kind of my feeling. Same thing with Merkulov. Merkulov's ripping off some points, you know, but I just don't see these players being big game changers coming into the NHL and like doing the same consistent point getting that they did down in Providence. I don't think that they're the saviors at all. I don't know. It's really hard. It's really hard to figure out what the Bruins are going to do with these players. This is the last year, if I'm not mistaken, on Georgi Merkulov. What are they going to do with him if he doesn't make the NHL? I think he's going to get NHL games towards the end of the year, along with Poitras, along with Lysell. Lysell is just, you know, he's hit or miss. You know, still something going on between his ears that I still cannot figure out. I don't know. I don't know about. I just like the way that the Providence Bruins have been playing. They went from 7th place in the division, shot right up to 2nd place, right behind the Hershey Bears, and 11 points behind them. So, you know, 2nd place is good. They do have an 8-5-2 home record, which is not great. They have a 5-5-0 record on the road, which is not great. But their last 10 games is 7-3-0. So that you know, that they're playing consistent hockey right around the same time that I said mid-December to the end of the year, this team will turn it around and probably be one of the well-known teams in the Atlantic Division for a Calder Cup playoff spot. So, you know, that's my whole thing on those players. I mean, they're playing good hockey. It's all coming around and everything, but I just don't think that these guys, everybody's just like, bring the kids up. I don't see a world where you bring up Lysell, Merkulov, and Poitras. Well, and think you can be successful. I don't see it.
I here's the thing. Lysell, I'm not there yet, even though he's finally figuring it out. Slowly. Poitras and Merkulov, I think they desperately needs a change on the roster right now. They desperately need something different because the same old thing is not working, right? I understand your point about leave them in Providence where they're cooking up a great situation right now down there. They're doing a great job. I understand that. But at the same time, you need help on the NHL roster right now. Right? That's my whole thing. You need help on the NHL roster right now. Poitras has been with the NHL team. He knows the situation. He knows the room. He knows the playbook. Merkulov was here for a few games. He slowly started to learn the playbook, right? He's starting to slowly figure it out. That's why I think they need to come up, because if I'm looking at guys like Mark McLaughlin and Tyler Johnson, Poitras and Merkulov blow them out of the water, right? Now, at the same time, I understand your concern about McLaughlin, Poitras being a McLaughlin 2.0, getting on this red-hot streak in Providence and then coming up and then crapping the bed. I get it. But you need something, right? That's my whole thing, Mark. You need something, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you need that. That's why I'm thinking you need to bring up Poitras and Merkulov and send McLaughlin and Johnson down. Or at least Johnson on waivers, and then McLaughlin you can just send down, I think. So that's what I think they need to do. David, what do you think about that?
Mark, who is Poitras playing on the line with in the AHL right now?
Tufte and Letary.
And who's Lysell playing with?
Shit.
He's playing.
I guess better question is Merkulov and Lysell playing together?
Yes, they were last night. It was Merkulov, Brown, and Lysell last night.
Okay, so I'm wondering if, and this is not going to be a positive thing, but I'm wondering if they're looking at this and being like, similar to what we've been saying, Poitras, Lysell, Merkulov, these guys are not going to make they're not going to be a world beater. They're not going to change anything. So let's leave them down here to get the consistency. Mike Sullivan made a good point there. Keep them down and let them build a culture with one another. That's a great idea if you're looking towards the future. If they're afraid that they're not going to re-sign Merkulov, I could see him being the one that gets a shot just to give other clubs an idea of what he is if they are going to include him in a trade. But we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't know what's going on with his agent. He may be more than open to coming back, and this may all be a plan for the future. Right now, we're focused on winning this year. We're focused on winning tonight. We're focused on winning at the end of the year. We don't know what the Bruins' prerogatives are right now. So if their prerogatives are to build the culture in the AHL and have the young guys kind of almost make a step together, this could be what we're looking at for the rest of the season. So even though we're like, man, what's happening? Why isn't Poitras here? Why isn't Merkulov here? This may be all a part of their long-term plan right now. We looked at Tyler Johnson at the start of the year as almost like a savior. Why isn't Tyler Johnson in the lineup? He's going to come in the lineup and he's going to change things, and he's done fuck all since he's been here. And now you want to put that same burden on these kids after the shit that Lysell's dealt with since he's been in the AHL. You want to bring him up to I'm not saying anyone in particular, but making those roster changes. You want to bring these kids up and put them through that of having the burden of being the saviors. To me, it just doesn't make sense. Let them sit in the AHL. If this ship goes down, it's going down without them. Let them have a start fresh, either later in the year or at the beginning of next year, kind of like a group movement together, and move forward that way. But we all know that none of those players, the three that we spoke about, you can include Letary and Patrick Brown and anyone else you want into that, they're not going to come up here and fix this problem right now. And the Bruins fan base is way too fragile to let them come up and get bashed and then get sent back down. I don't see how, unless they do come up and completely change the way this shit's going, I don't see how there could be anything positive that comes out of this. So I'm on the same wavelength as Mark and a couple people in the chat here of leave them in the minors, let them build that culture, let them get used to each other, and bring them up together either later or at the beginning next season. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I call it bipolar fan base because
100%.
they clam for a player to come up, and then they'll torch him as soon as he has a bad game. Absolutely torch him. I do want to touch on David. You were talking about the lineup. Mark Diver posted this 20 hours ago of last night's game against Bridgeport. It's Tufte, Brown, Lysell, first line. Merkulov, Poitras, Letary is the second line. Viel, Farinacci, Jones is the third line. Abate, Nelson, and Pitlick is the fourth line.
Okay.
And again, Trevor Kutar scratched. I don't understand why that player gets scratched all the time. I do not get it. The guy's just a buzzsaw out there. He's absolutely what you want in a Providence, in your prospect, in the Providence Bruins and so on. I just don't understand why he's not playing more consistent games.
I was at the game Sunday against Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and I saw Trevor Kuntar throw a couple of the biggest hits I've ever seen a player throw in person. He was finishing his checks really hard. He was doing some really good stuff. I don't know what was going on with that Imama dude from the Penguins. He wanted the smoke. He wanted everybody, and Kuntar was not having it. Those two were at each other's throats in that second period. I don't know what was said between the intermissions, but the third period was like a completely different game from the second period. This is the end of that second period was wild. There's just so many fights and stuff. But again, I agree with your guys' points about Poitras and Merkulov and Lethierry and Lassell being stuck down there, and I get it. I understand both sides to it, right? Keep them down there, but also try to help your NHL team at the same time. I see both sides to why people are split down the middle about it. Let's talk about Alec Regula. Regula was on waivers the other day, and he got claimed by the Edmonton Oilers. So, Mark, I know you said you wanted to touch on Alec Regula. What are your thoughts on this, and what happened here?
Yeah, there's a couple people that came into my DMs and even questioned me on Twitter with a post saying Sweeney's dumb, this is a stupid move, this and that. But they just don't take the time to like step back, figure out why this happened. So Alec Regula was injured. Really bad injury last year, missed a ton of regular season games, missed the playoffs, and was injured throughout the off season going into this year. So just like every other team in the NHL, they waive a ton of people at the same time right before the season starts. Okay. If he was healthy and needed to be waived, I think he would have survived that whole process, because there's so many players at that particular time that are going down. Teams are just like, hey, which one do we take? Which one do we don't take? And also teams at that time frame in the preseason or whatever, or before the regular season, they already have their lineups pretty much set in stone. So they're not really going to make any changes right there. That's why a lot of the wave players don't get claimed. But as you go on to the season and other teams start figuring out deficiencies in their lineup, and when people become available, they'll take them. Here's the thing, though. Alec Regula is coming off of an injury. So he wasn't available for the wave before the regular season. So now that he comes back into the lineup to play for Providence, he's got to go through the waiver process. So that's what happened. So this isn't something that Sweeney did or Bruins management did that and screwed over this player and screwed over the future. This is something that had to happen. It happens all the time. So stop pointing fingers so bad at Bruins management if you don't know what you're actually talking about.
Yeah, you need to clear, because he was listed on the NHL roster for the first couple months of this season on IR. He comes off IR, they activate him. He was out of the red sweater leading the stretch the other day, put on waivers that afternoon. He's off to Edmonton now.
But
he's going to go play with the Bakersfield Condors now in the AHL.
I will tell you, huge loss for Providence.
Oh, yeah.
Huge loss for Providence. This is a player that, I think he led the AHL last year in plus minus, and he is a good defenseman, a really good defenseman, and on a team that needs good defensemen. We're a bit thin down in Providence right now, and the Providence definitely could have used him in the lineup. I really wish that he passed through, but maybe he'll get his chance in Edmonton. Who knows? But it's just it sucks. to be honest with you, because he was really good.
All right, it is 2:00, so the waiver wire has shut down from the days previous. I'm going to check that and see, did Wahlstrom get claimed by anybody?
I haven't seen anything yet.
Well, it just happened. So we'll see here. If he got claimed. Wasn't there? Yeah, Pierre Engvall was also on waivers as well, correct?
Yes.
Islanders putting a couple of big players on the waiver wire. Now, Engvall was actually in Bridgeport, if I'm not mistaken. He wasn't with the New York Islanders. He was with Bridgeport, at a huge contract too. So they buried a lot of that contract in the minors. But Wahlstrom was in the NHL roster. We'll see if he got claimed. I don't see anything saying that he did by anybody or if he didn't. So that'll probably come out in the next few minutes. Let's talk about Brad Marchand. Marchand has been better recently. We were worried earlier in the season about him and his play. It has been much better. In the past few games, Marchand up to a team-leading 12 goals on the season, scoring the only Bruins goal against the Kraken on Thursday in the penalty shot. Yeah, he's putting up some good numbers right now.
Breaking news. Wahlstrom was claimed by the Bruins.
Yeah, they claimed him. Holy shit.
Those... well, yeah, that's...
Wow.
You should see the thread. You should see the thread on Elliot Friedman's tweet.
Wow.
One says make
Parker.
One says make. Oh my God! Look at Parker. Look at this guy. This guy Bert says start the Cup DVD.
The Cup is back on, baby. Oh, jeez. Well, Oliver Wahlstrom, ladies and gentlemen, the newest member of the Boston Bruins. Awesome. Oh, jeez.
I did not see that coming.
They read Bruins Twitter. Oh, God. Well, hell. We talked about him earlier in the show. Son of a bitch. Oh, God. So let's take a look at Oliver Wahlstrom, shall we? Oh, my God. Series by Alan Parsons Project starts playing. Oh, my God. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Shut up, Siri. I'm going to take a look at Wahlstrom here.
Best thing Wahlstrom's ever did was that super cool goal that he had when he was like 12.
I saw that clip earlier today. I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah.
So he was 9 years old in the TD Garden, the Bruins one-on-one thing. They used to air during the first intermission on Nesson every once in a while. And Wahlstrom did like this really cool, like, spinning. He picked the puck. It looked like he was, oh my God, what's his name? Anyway, he's a hockey player who's on Instagram. He posts all these crazy goals and stuff and shootout. 36 career goals, 35 career assists, 71 points in 220 games in his NHL career. Was a first-round pick back in 2018 by the Islanders out of Portland, Maine. 24 years old. He's 6'2", 205. I suspect he'll join the team after this road trip. Or he'll fly out and meet them in Calgary. I don't know. Best season was his 21-22 season. He put up 13 goals, 11 assists for 24 points in 73 games. He does not have a full 82-game season under his belt yet. We already know our thoughts on it. We kind of put the X up on Wahlstrom. But the Bruins, apparently they read their Twitter feeds because guess what? Those bastards did it. They claimed Wahlstrom. Oh, God. So, Mark with a great tweet 39 seconds ago. Didn't have this on my bingo card today. I did because that's something the Bruins would have done. That is definitely a Bruins move of all time. But, hey, look, like I said, isn't anything better than nothing? And I think they're trying to do something of note. So Oliver Wahlstrom is the newest member of the Boston Bruins here, live here on the podcast. We're learning it as we speak here at 2 o'clock here on this Saturday afternoon. All right, anyways, let's talk about Brad Marchand. We're getting back into what our Marchand discussion. Marchand coming into this game, coming into today, team leading 12 goals on the season. Marchand has been really good in the past 10 or 15 games. He has been the Bruins' best player by far on when it comes to the score sheet. But more importantly, he is starting to take a little more accountability as the captain, something I've been questioning. Some of the quotes he's been having recently have been intriguing. For example, after the 8-1 skunking by the Winnipeg Jets on Tuesday, Brad Marchand comes out and says this. He says, quote, well, I'm not going to, it's paraphrasing. He says that practice has been sloppy and the execution has not been there, and sloppy practices lead to sloppy play. He takes full accountability, something a captain does. He has not been doing that recently up until now. Mark, what are our thoughts on Marchand's play and his quotes as of late in post-game press?
Being a leader. That's what you expect out of being a leader. If you need to call out some people or the team in itself, then that's what you got to do. But it's good to see that he's starting to almost like he's becoming more and more healthy as he continues on to the season after the 3 surgeries and so on, being a little bit more of himself. But I did see that on Bruins Beat with Connor Ryan and Evan Marinovsky, they were talking about this morning. They were talking about, could the Bruins trade Marchand? It wouldn't be the first captain to leave an NHL team this year. So I don't know about that. I'm not sure if we go that far. That's a huge domino. If you want to really get the attention of the room, that's the one you would trade. But I see something lower than him going first. But he's a good player, a good veteran. He bleeds black and gold through and through. Just hopefully he can. The message resonates in the locker room. When they hear that, they got to come out and perform. When your leader is literally going out there to the media and to the masses saying that we got to be playing better, we got to practice better, you got to absorb that and go out and execute. And if you don't, you're just going to be a regular old NHL team that's probably going to squeak into the wild card 2 in the playoffs or not make it at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely agree. I'm liking what I'm hearing and seeing out of Marchand. I've been very critical. If you guys knew me before I was on this podcast, I have been very critical about Marchand as the captain, as I never saw him as the leader. My mind is starting to change about that over these past couple of weeks. Ever since the Montgomery firing, my tone has changed about Marchand as the captain. It has. David, what are your thoughts on Marchand's quotes and his play as of late?
So we talked about at the beginning of the season that these players like Marchand for the injuries, Hampus Lindholm for injuries, Pastrnak for injuries, Swayman for the contract holdout. We talked about these players are going to take a little while before they're ready to go. I think over the last little while, Sam, like you said, we're kind of seeing that Marchand he's getting there. He's not fully back, but his play has looked cleaner. He's not having nearly as many turnovers. He's even staying on his feet more, like he's not blowing tires as much as he was. These things are very important for a guy like Brad Marchand, who he needs to pick his spots, and the points are coming. The shots look good. His angles look good. Mm-hmm. He's getting in the places that we're used to seeing him get into. So all these things are very positive. In terms of the comments, it's what you expect to hear out of a captain for a team that's struggling but was expected to be better. It's kind of in response to, well, why is the team not looking as good as they should be? And it kind of goes back to, you practice what you preach. And if you're practicing sloppy, you're going to play sloppy. It's not like you can practice sloppy and then have a completely different mindset when you go into the game. That's just not how sports work. And it seems like he's understanding that. And by saying that we're having sloppy practices, he's holding everyone accountable. There's nobody that he's singling out to be like, Swayman is sloppy or Joe Sacco is sloppy. He's saying the whole last team is sloppy in practice, and we got to clean it up or else the results are not going to be there. I think it's fantastic. I'm hoping that he's buying into the captaincy. I hope he's buying into being more of a vocal leader in front of the media and not being afraid to speak out like this, because this is kind of what we need to get a fire under everyone. Is holy shit, Brad Marchand just called me out. Now I gotta fix it on my side, you know. He has in terms of the trades, the possible trade destinations and so on. Brad Marchand is Brad Marchand. Everyone around the league knows who he is. They know what they expect out of this guy, and he could definitely help a cup contender. He has a 18 no trade clause, so he can kind of pick where he wants to go for the most part. He has a 6.13 cap hit, and this is his final year of his contract as well. So again, money in, money out. So if they're giving up 6.13, basically you got to come back into the building for most teams at this point in the season. I don't have an idea of where a destination will be at this point and who could need Marchand, but I don't even know if he wants to leave the Bruins. Maybe he's, and I don't know if the management would do wrong by him in that sense. Like, I feel like he's been there so long that if he says he wants to stay, I feel like Sweeney and Neely are going to be like, yeah, you know what? We'll keep you around. We don't need to worry about that right now. So I hope he sticks around. I hope he signs maybe another 2 to 3 year team-friendly contract. I'm probably shooting for the stars here, but that's what I'd like to see out of him. But it's nice to see him healthy. It's nice to see him speaking up, and it's nice to see him putting the puck in the net.
If Marchand was going to be traded, he was going to be traded 2 years ago after the colossal collapse a couple years ago, because it was practically the same cap hit. It was because what they were trying to do a couple years ago, if you remember correctly, they were trying to bring back Tyler Bertuzzi, but they didn't have the money to bring back Tyler Bertuzzi. So I said on my stream when we were talking about it, I said the one of two has to go. Marchand or Taylor Hall have to get traded. One of the two. They traded Taylor Hall. So if they were committed to keeping Hall, they would have traded Marchand. So he didn't get traded then. He ain't getting traded now. I don't think he's going to be traded. I think he's going to be a Bruin the rest of his career, however long that is, whether that's until the end of the season or 3 years from now. That's my take on that. Mark?
I had my hand raised for the audio listeners. Question. If they do trade Brad Marchand, who's your new captain? And why is it Brandon Carlo?
Look, the obvious answer, most casual Bruins fans would say, oh, Pasternak, or oh, McAvoy. McAvoy would be fine. Pasternak, not captain material. Nothing wrong with that. Again, I said this over the summer. Nothing wrong with that. Not everybody's going to be a captain. Not everybody's gonna be a saint like Patrice Bergeron. Okay, not everybody's gonna be Chara. All right, I get it. Pasternak doesn't have to be the captain to be the best player on the team. Okay, Marchand has proven to me that he's the captain. If Marchand gets traded and they need a new captain, it's either McAvoy or Carlo. Carlo, again, I feel like I said this before. NHL Players Association union rep. Great leader in the locker room, well respected in the locker room. He has done a lot of good things outside of the organization for the organization, right? If you were to do McAvoy, look, if you make McAvoy as your captain, that's your franchise defenseman, right? That's the guy you paid $9.5 million. Now, if you agree with that or not, that's besides the point. The Bruins paid him $9.5 million. They're making him your franchise defenseman. You're going to have to treat him as such, right? Because who else, right? It's either McAvoy or Carlo or Pasternak, and I disagree with that for many reasons. If it's anybody out of that three, the next person, and look, if it's not going to be McAvoy, Pastrnak, or Carlo, the next person I'm looking at is Hampus Lindholm. That's another person I'm throwing out there. David, what are your thoughts on that?
I love Hampus Lindholm. No, I love Hampus Lindholm. I've loved him since the Bruins traded for him. I'm glad he signed an extension. He should be around for a while. Depending on how the season goes and how his health goes, I wouldn't be surprised to see his name being thrown around in trade talks, but I really hope he doesn't get moved. I think he'd fit in as captain. I haven't really heard him be overly vocal in terms of speaking to the media and such, but he very well could be a lead by example type of person. He has a really high IQ when it comes to being on the ice. I always go back to that Pastrnak goal last year to beat the Leafs in overtime. Like it was such a perfect play from Lindholm to dump that puck exactly where he dumped it because he knew Pastrnak was flying down the other side. Those are plays that that's where it comes from being smart. That's not just hockey sense. That's just like extremely high IQ in those situations. I'd love to see him put on the C if Marchand gets moved or retires, but I feel like there's a couple solid options, and I think you could make. I think there's lots of opinions that are going to be out there, but I think there's a couple good options that could possibly be. That could possibly be a captain if Marchand gets moved.
Yeah, 100%. Mark said he'll be right back. I just want to let's talk about this real quick. How the Bruins aren't in the worst spot, because I just saw the NHL app. The LA Kings are beating the Rangers 5-0 in the second period right now in New York. 26 minutes in, the Rangers are down 5 goals at home to the Kings. Igor Shesterkin is the starting goaltender, and they are getting absolutely smoked. Ooh, that is not good. So don't worry. Swayman is not the only highly paid goaltender that is absolutely doing awful right now. Shesterkin hasn't been great either. So let's calm down about that. Yeah, so Mark's will be joining us here in just a moment. There he is. I was just saying that the Rangers are losing 5-0 to the Kings right now in the second period.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, they're down 5-0, and Shesterkin's getting rocked right now. Are they going to trade Kreider? Kreider for Marchand, 1-for-1. That wouldn't be all that bad, but it still would kind of suck seeing Marchand go. So let's talk about this idea that has been all over the Bruins fan base and on social media. This team sucks. Blow it up. They need to start over. Oh, jeez. Here we go. I thought you said you were hungover, Mark.
Yeah, you know what? You know what kills a good hangover? Hair of the dog.
Okay. Well, so the Bruins, the fans say they should rebuild, or people who don't watch the team or don't know a lot about hockey say that they should rebuild because the team is not great. Let me explain something. If you have a core of Pastrnak, McAvoy, Swayman, and the Lindholms, and both of them, you are not rebuilding. End of discussion. You are not rebuilding. Retool? Okay, we can have a conversation. You're not rebuilding. Mark, what are your thoughts on that?
So, yeah, there's a lot of people that are like, start the rebuild now, and it's coming from angry Bruins fans. But I think a rebuild and not getting into the playoffs for like several years, Detroit is a great example of a team that's rebuilding. I think Bruins fans would be more angry if they don't get into the postseason. So why would you do a rebuild? I'm still on the retool because you have complementary pieces, like you said, Sam. Why would you do that? I mean, if you're going to do a full rebuild, say goodbye to Swayman. That's probably a goalie that's going to bring back a decent return. Probably not right now with the way he's playing, but still, it's like you're gonna have to move on from a few players on this current Bruins team if a rebuild is going to happen. I would stick with the plan of retooling, finding the pieces that work, not blowing it all up.
Yeah, 100%. David, what are your thoughts on if the Bruins should rebuild, retool, or stay mid?
So one good thing about being a fan of the Raptors has taught me that location is very important. History is very important. The Raptors are not seen as a place where people want to go to play. So rebuilding there is almost like a consistent thing that happens so many years because no free agents want to sign there. The good thing about the Boston Bruins is that with the history, with the location, and I guess with the opinions of people around the organization, players want to play there. Players want to sign there. Players want to be traded there. So rebuilds happen fast, but they don't happen often because there's always someone on the roster that other people want to play with. So this retooling idea is, in my opinion, a much better idea because if you look at the current roster, and I don't want to buy into, Mark, like you called it, the bipolar fan base, but we're not going to rebuild. Let's just get that out there. You got players like Pastrnak, Swayman, Lindholm, Zadorov, McAvoy, and you can probably list another 4 or 5 that are locked into long-term contracts that are not going to fit the age timeline of a rebuild. So what exactly are you planning to do if you're going to do a rebuild? Are you getting rid of are you just clearing house? Let's get rid of everyone and start over? It's not how this is going to work. If you have players like Pastrnak, Swayman, Lindholm, Zadorov, et cetera, you're not going to rebuild. There's no point. It doesn't make sense. The retool obviously makes sense. Retooling always makes sense if it's one of those like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Bruins are broke right now, so we need to fix it. But the retooling, that's where that comes in. It's just you need to repair it. You don't need to break it down to the studs and build it back up. You just got to put in the replacement parts that make it work again. And I think that's where a lot of fans are. I understand you're impatient. We're not used to seeing the Bruins lose. They have the longest streak for making the playoffs in the NHL right now. I think they're tied with one other team. I'm not sure who. But we're used to winning. So it's tough, right? But you got to be smart about this. You got to think logically. A rebuild does nothing right now. There's too many long-term contracts for people who are not 22 to go into a rebuild. Retooling would be getting rid of, players like Geeky and Frederick and even possibly Marchand, the guys who are on those short-term contracts, to bring in other players that are either on long-term contracts or are going to agree to long-term contracts. They are not overly old. They're not overly young. They kind of fit that same age time frame as guys like McAvoy and Pastrnak and stuff like that. But the rebuild just ain't going to work. And I know we're talking about the rebuild and the retool, but I just want to touch on a couple things in the chat that I'm seeing, and I just find it hilarious. So Shesterkin has a bad game, and we have guys saying every goalie will have a bad game at times, but Shesterkin and Small is better than Swayman. Up above, we have difference between Shesterkin and Swayman is that Shesterkin has proven he can be a number one. You see how fucking high the bar is for Swayman compared to these other goalies? Like, this is why fans are so upset. And I'm not blaming Boston Gamer or Bear Force anyone, but like, this is what we do to ourselves as Boston Bruin fans. We just set the bar so high for these players that you got to be better than Shesterkin, but you're getting paid $3 million less. And it's just, it irks me so much when I see these things.
Well, the thing is, I completely understand your point, but I also understand the other side. You paid Swayman $8 25 without being the number one goalie with in a non-1A, 1B situation. So they expected Swayman to be the second coming of Jesus Christ right away. Okay? They expected Swayman to be like, oh my God, well, if you're going to give him $8 25, he better be putting up 35, 40 wins in 55 games right away. Right away. And that's simply not, it's not sustainable. But at the same time, yeah, you want a little more consistency out of Swayman. Yeah, so that's my that's my thoughts on that. You want some consistency out of them, but again, not every goalie is going to be, prime Patrick Waugh or Marchand Brodeur or Dominic Hasek. But if you pay Swayman the big bucks, he's got to play. He's got to produce some wins, and he has not been doing that a lot as of late. So
it's so funny, and I call this. Ask Kevin, my boy, Boston gamer, Kevin O'Keefe. I said this years ago. I said when he was on this podcast, I said, yeah, Jeremy Swayman is a really good prospect. Watch him get to the NHL, and this fan base tortures him like they did to Tuukka Rask. Look where we are now. We're back.
It's like this fan base is very predictable, Mark.
No way.
Very predictable. Before we move on to the upcoming games, David, what are your thoughts on hockey potentially coming back to Newfoundland? What the hell? What's up with that, man?
We seem to be trying all the different avenues. We tried the AHL, we tried the ECHL. Now we're going to the Q. We're getting lower and lower, but it's always nice to see hockey around. It's nice to see competitive hockey in person. Really miss the Growlers right now. I'm interested to see what the name is going to be if they do relocate. I know nothing has been confirmed, and I don't know when they would start to play in St. John's. But I actually messaged my father-in-law and his brother, because those are the two that I usually go with, just talking about, we might have hockey to go back to. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Acadie Bathurst. I think it's French. But the Acadie Bathurst Titan are apparently relocating to St. John's, Newfoundland. Again, I don't know when this is supposed to happen. They're currently 4th in their division. I don't know many of the players on the roster in terms of, what they expected of the team. But looking at their history, they've had a lot of NHL alumni. Luongo, Jonathan Girard, Patrice Bergeron, Matthew Perreault, Francois Beauchemin, Jeffrey Veal is played for them, and Brisebois played for them as well. So there are some players who are currently in the NHL and some players that were in the NHL at some point that played for them. So it'd be nice to see I think what they call the stars of next year in person again. So
not only that, but what it does is it puts the focus back on your local talent, David. So now teams like Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and I know I said that wrong because they changed the wording. But what that's going to do is you're going to see more Newfoundland players being more involved, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'm taking this one from my friend Jeff Merrick. I wouldn't be surprised if when the announcement happens and everything becomes official, that team starts looking at players from that area to come and play. So yeah.
One of the things that we're really missing in Newfoundland is the exposure. Being on an island away from everyone else, it's hard to show our talent to other people without getting them to come here. They don't want to come here, so usually it ends up we have to go to places on the mainland like Ontario and Quebec and Alberta, places like this to show out. COVID has actually been a big positive for Newfoundland in terms of sports exposure because we can't go in person. A lot of companies and organizations are setting up tablets. We have a minor basketball program ran by my friend John Pye, who had a four-court scrimmage set up where they had tablets set up, and any of the coaches from club teams in Ontario and Alberta and places like this could watch these players. So having this team from the Q come here is definitely going to create some more exposure. Apparently the pursuit is being led by the owner of Browning Harvey, which is the main Pepsi distributor here in Newfoundland. So should be some deep pockets. I looked at a couple of reports and they said to make things work, the attendance needs to be high. Newfoundland loves hockey and people do get out to watch these things. I wouldn't be surprised if when this team comes around that you see that it's quite possible that we're going to have one of the biggest supports for any team in the Q. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have like at one game or another the most fans that has ever been at a Q like regular season game at some point. There's a big backing here. It's just a matter of how much it costs to house a team here and to get other teams to come here and stuff like that. But it's really unfortunate seeing the AHL and the ECHL not work. So I'm really hoping that that the Q can work here and stay consistent for us.
Really hoping for that too, as they lost the Ice Caps and they have most recently lost the Growlers, and hopefully this QMJHL team works out in Newfoundland. Let's talk about the upcoming games of the week before we get into your live questions. And I know a lot of you who are just joining us are going to ask us for our thoughts about Oliver Wahlstrom. We'll talk about it. Again, we'll regurgitate the same thing coming up in a minute. Upcoming games of the week. Tonight, the Bruins are in Vancouver taking on the Canucks at 10 p.m. at the Rogers Arena. I will be calling that game on YouTube tonight, 10 p.m. puck drop in Vancouver. What are we expecting here? Do we actually expect the Bruins to start on time and finish on time tonight? Mark, I'll start with you.
Yeah, this is another. I mean, Vancouver's a good team, and they're going to come at you with a lot of offense. And I hate to say this, but I'm already putting Jake DeBrusk as a anytime goal scorer. Sorry, guys, but
God,
just I don't know, kind of like practice what you preach. Brad Marchand has been calling this team out to be better, practice better, and so on. And hopefully, all of that comes to fruition tonight, and they try to turn this road trip around. Because it's not going to get any easier after this game. And we'll talk about the other games coming up. Yeah. And, you do have, who's the goalie?
Lankinen.
What's that?
Lankinen?
No. Isn't the other guy back?
Seelovs?
No.
Demko?
Yeah. Isn't Thatcher Demko back?
I
think he is.
Yes.
So I don't know.
They call it. Well, wait a minute. The Canucks they made some rosters moves this morning. I saw it before we went live. Yes, they announced they have recalled Mark Friedman, Max Sasson, and Atu Ratti from Abbotsford. Artur Seelovs has also been recalled on an emergency basis as of an hour ago.
Okay. Well, regardless, you gotta finish. You gotta finish against a team like this. If you have a defensive lapse, the offense has to make up for that. You have to create gaps in the score sheet, because trying to win games 3-2, 2-1 it's like boring hockey, to be honest with you. But I just want to see a better effort than they have been putting in the last two games on this road trip. Try to turn things around at least.
Yeah, need 2 points. Need 2 points here. Before we get to your point, Dave, I want to point this out. Kevin wants chaos. Elias Lindholm, Danton Heinen, Nikita Zadorov, and Jake DeBrusk all getting hat tricks tonight. Going to be a wild one. If that's the case, oh my God, the final score is going to be 11-9. David, what are your thoughts on the Bruins Canucks game tonight? What do we want to see out of this Bruins team, and what kind of key players are we expecting to see out of Vancouver tonight?
So Pettersson and Hughes are leading their team in scoring. Feel like there's no big surprise there.
No.
Lankinen has been their best goalie so far, and he literally is looking like a number one. He's 14-4-3 with a 2.5 goals against and a 9-12 save.
Jesus.
Seelovs has been trash. He's 1-4-1 with a 4.1 and 8.47 save. Demko made his return on Tuesday. Gave up 4 goals on 25 shots. I don't remember exactly who they were playing that game, but he didn't look good in his season opener. So hopefully, if I do believe Demko is playing today, so I hope that he hasn't shook the rust off, and the Bruins can kind of capitalize on that. Put 35 shots up on him and see what happens. I feel like the last time they played Vancouver, I said I wanted to see a quiet game out of Dan Heighton and Jake DeBrusk, and we definitely did not get that. So I'm just going to hope for the same thing. I don't want to see DeBrusk score. I hate how smug he is when he scored against the Bruins last time, just being like, look what you let go type of thing. I hate that. But as I always say, I want to see a clean game. I want to see lots of shots. And I want to see a positive attitude. I want to see the first goal come from the Bruins. And if the first goal comes from Vancouver, I don't want to see them put their tail between their legs and give up. Fight back for once and let the fans see what we can look forward to.
Battle with some adversity.
There you go. Yeah, and as you guys saw on YouTube, what is the crime?
That's my guy.
Okay. Said Thatcher Demko is confirmed goalie tonight. So that settles that.
Swayman will most likely be in net tonight against the Canucks. So it's either going to be a really good tight game or the Canucks are going to win by 25. Find out.
25.
So after tonight, they'll be traveling to Alberta for both games coming up this upcoming week again in Alberta. They're taking on the Flames on Tuesday, 9 p.m. puck drop at the Scotiabank Saddledome in Calgary. What are we expecting here out of this one, Mark?
Another team that can sneakily ruin your night. And hopefully this game is not one the Bruins, make this goaltender, whether it be I don't even remember who it is. I know Dan Vladar plays for that team. Hopefully they don't make their goalies look like a Vezina Trophy winner. I don't know. The next two games are just going to be absolutely huge, just to turn things around. This team needs some kind of inspiration, some kind of kick in the ass, and winning is infectious. So let's start tonight and, hopefully get 2 points and, get 2 more points in the next 2 games. That'll be nice. Come back to Boston and play Buffalo and, a little bit of home cooking.
David?
Yeah, so with the Flames, Huberdeau and Kadri are leading the team in scoring. Vladar and Wolf, they're the two that have really done like the tandem, the 1A, 1B. Vladar is 6-6-4 with 3.08, 885 save, and Wolf is 8-5-1 with a 284 goals against and a 909 save. So they're basically going 1 for 1 in terms of amount of games played. The Flames are tough to play at home. They get a lot of attendance. They're really loud, and their fans really show out. This whole West Coast trip has been so negative over the first couple games that the Bruins really do need some sort of spark. If they can put on a good showing against Vancouver tonight, then I could see another positive game coming in Calgary. But if they go out and blow a tire against the Canucks tonight, this game against the Flames is not going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of pressure on them. There's going to be a lot of stress from the players, and I don't think anyone is going to be playing relaxed. And everyone knows that you play your best hockey when you play relaxed. So tonight's going to be an interesting game to kind of set up what this game is going to be. Boston Gamer says the Scotiabank Saddledome sounds super zesty. I don't know if you guys have. Do you guys have Mary Brown's, the chicken joint in the U.S. yet?
No, but it sounds great right now.
So in Newfoundland, the name of our stadium is the Mary Brown Center. And it's just, everyone's like, what the hell is the Mary Brown Center? It's basically like it originated in Newfoundland, but now it's all over Canada. It's basically like another KFC, breaded chicken, that type of thing. So, but yeah, Mary Brown Center just sounds weird.
Apparently, Elias Lindholm is on the ice for morning skate tonight. I also can confirm it looks like, based off the morning rushes, that Johnson will be out. McLaughlin will be in. Lowry will be back in for Wotherspoon. So pretty much the reverting back to the lineup they had against the Jets. So McLaughlin.
Cup's back on.
What's that?
Cup's back on.
McLaughlin is playing with Koepke and Beecher tonight. Kastelik with Coyle and with Frederick. Defensive pairings, Zadorov, McAvoy, Osterley, Carlo, Lowry, Peak. So they changed the defensive pairings a little bit. Not where I want them to be, but they changed them, as I said earlier in the program. So that should be interesting coming up tonight. Then they have the Flames on Tuesday. And then, crap. They play the Oilers on Thursday, 9 p.m. at Rogers Place. Rogers Arena in Vancouver, Rogers Place in Edmonton. Oh, God. Then they have the Rogers Center in Toronto, too. What's next? The Rogers Dome? Jeez, man. I understand Rogers is a big company up in Canada, but geez, it's like 3 different stadiums with the same name. It confuses me. Rogers Place in Edmonton on Thursday night. McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Bouchard, David. Shit.
Yeah, the Oilers are. It's kind of like the Malcolm Crosby thing in Pittsburgh, right? Like the Oilers are going to go as far as Draisaitl and McDavid take them, but having guys like Hyman and a couple others that they have up there as their secondary scoring is really helping out. Draisaitl and McDavid have 40 points each, 40-something points each, and the next closest one is like 22 or 26. So you really know who's leading that team. So you know who you got to shut down. Those two players cannot score against you or else you are going to lose. Skinner and Picard are 2 goalies. I really think that the Oilers want Skinner to be the number 1, but I actually think Picard is a better goalie. He's had a smaller sample size so far, but to me, just based off what I've seen from highlights and reading from some other people on Oilers Twitter, it really seems like Picard has stood out as the better goalie so far. Skinner is 10-7-2 with a 2.8 goals against, 895 save. Picard is 7-3 with a 2.4 goals against and a 901 save. So a little bit of a bigger sample size, but Picard for me would be the better goalie right now. It's a big game for all 3 of these teams too. If you look at the standings, the Oilers, Flames, and Canucks are back to back in the middle of the division. So this game against the Bruins is super important for all 3 of these teams to really separate themselves. So if, let's say, for example, if Vancouver loses, I guess either way, if Vancouver loses, then the Flames and the Oilers want to capitalize on that. If Vancouver wins, then the Oilers and the Flames are going to want to stay on par with them. So the Bruins are in for some tough games against teams that are going to want to win these games, just based off who the Bruins have played before them. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a tough one.
David, Mark, excuse me. Sorry.
You know what's funny is the next 3 games on this road trip. Calgary is by far the better home team out of the 3, but like Vancouver is 5-6-4 at home, Edmonton 8-6-1 at home. You know, you got to capitalize on that. I mean, Vancouver being 10-2-1 on the road and Edmonton being 9-4-1 on the road. Capitalize on their frustrating times at home. That's what I can suggest, and that goes for this game too. I mean, just like Vancouver, Edmonton's going to come at you with a high-powered offense. It's a no-quit offense led by, of course, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and many players that Sam said earlier. You just got to, you got to commit to getting this 2 points, and if you happen to go down, like David said earlier, don't quit, don't give up. I mean, there's a couple games in this season when we've seen some really good resiliency, and teams when they come from behind and win. Play a 60-minute effort. Don't give up in the 3rd period. That's the only thing.
This one.
Yeah.
Against the Flyers last Saturday. That's a prime example of games where the Bruins didn't give up. They didn't lay down and go to bed. They actually came back and won. Right. So that's my prime example of that. I want to, before we get to the games, before we get to the live questions, I want to point out on Thursday, I think the NHL might have been on drugs because there were 3 games that had a team that had at least 7 goals.
Holy crap.
The Penguins scored 9 on the Canadiens on Thursday. The Oilers scored 7 on the Wild. And the Lightning scored 8 on the Flames. Yeah. The NHL has been weird recently. And the Flames are winning 5-1 at the end of 2 in New York. The NHL is weird right now, man. It is so weird. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, let's get to your live questions. We have about 15, 20 minutes to go on the show. I know all of you are wondering our thoughts on Oliver Wahlstrom, our full-on thoughts, and where he'll fit on the team. We'll answer that right now. We'll also answer any of your live questions you have, so make sure to drop them in the chat. If you're watching on a platform that doesn't have a live chat, go to YouTube, go to the Black and Gold Productions YouTube channel, and go like the stream and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn on the bell and make sure you get notified every single time we go live or upload here on Black and Gold Productions YouTube channel. So if you have any questions, make sure to drop them in the chat. We will be happy to answer them here. In one word, what should the Bruins be? Sell, conservative sell, hold, conservative buy, or buy?
Jesus, Parker.
Parker. Oh my God. As of right now, conservative buy. Be smart with what you're doing. Don't buy just to buy. Buy it because you think it makes sense and will make your team better. Right? And also, don't overgive for players that might not work out. You know what I mean? That's my thought on conservative buy.
I'm with you on that one, Sam.
David?
Yeah, I would agree. It would either be conservative buy or hold for me. Definitely not selling anything at this point, and I'm not going all in to buy anything until we get further in the season. I know the closer you get to the trade deadline, the higher the prices go for players and stuff like that. But the Bruins could look at that on their side as well. If they plan on selling off some assets, they're going to get a better deal at the deadline than they are in December. Conservative buy for me would be, getting rid of these guys like Tyler Johnson and McLaughlin out of the lineup, and then trading a guy like a Geeky or some of the lower end prospects for a 1 year lower end rental that you might be able to throw on the third or fourth line just as a tryout basis. But I'm not doing anything crazy right now. That's kind of where I am with that.
Kevin, with a great thing here, you can tell that Parker plays a lot of NHL 25, the video game. Yeah, because that's the 5 options that you have at trade deadline in the GM mode is sell, conservative sell, hold, conservative buy, or buy. He literally got that right out the video game, which I appreciate. I also want to point out, I'll just answer this question straight up. That what do you guys think of the Wahlstrom claim? Right? Look, I think this is a move that proves my point earlier of anything is better than nothing. Right? You're looking for something different, some sort of spark. Eamon McLean tweeted out that 11 of Wahlstrom's 36 career goals have come on the power play, which is really intriguing to me. So would you possibly ponder putting him on one of the power play units if he comes in and see what he brings? Hey, it's worth a shot. The power play sucks already. It can't get any worse. Might as well give it a shot, right?
Yeah. I mean, my thoughts on the Wahlstrom claim, he does have some creativity on the ice. I don't think he's going to be any type of savior, but it is a low risk. He's got a really good, decent contract, cap friendly deal. I don't know. I mean, he's got a good shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do think, you might see him on the power play. And if he can get power play points, power play goals, and be a consistent player, might be a sneakingly good ad. And not only that, he is from Maine, so he's a New England kid, probably grew up to be a Boston Bruins fan. That I don't know. I mean, we would have to see what he has to offer in his first game, whether it be tonight versus Calgary or Edmonton. Remains to be seen, but I don't know. I'm not too big on his stats. I mean, 2-2-4 with a -6 in 27 games this year for the Islanders. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's going to translate to any better.
Yeah, he's on a 1-year deal, $1 million. It was signed over the summer, so it's a low risk, but also could be a high reward deal. It depends on how it works out. If Wahlstrom goes off and has like a great stretch here, hey, nice job. But if he comes out and kind of does whatever, it's like, okay, another one, Kenny said, I agree with Mark's point about Merck and Poitras not being the next time you have Jesus. But at what point do you call them up for development purposes? Merck is on pace for another 65-point season in the AHL.
The NHL is not a developmental league. That's I will continue to die on that hill. That's the American Hockey League. That's where you develop players.
Yeah, but you want to get him some NHL minutes, I think is what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
So I'd like to go back to kind of what we spoke about earlier when we were talking about the up and down. I guess I don't remember if we were talking about it with the consistency or what it was, but guys like Mercula, Mercula's a little bit different because he's on that last year of his contract and stuff. But when you're looking at guys like Poitras and Lysell and a couple other young kids down there, I'm okay with keeping them down there, building that consistency with each other, the trust with each other, and then kind of bringing them all up together either later this season or at the beginning next season. But Kenny, you may not have been here, but I just don't see the positive effect of tossing someone like Merkulov or Poitras or Lysell into the lineup right now, expecting them to be some sort of savior, because we know what Bruins fans are like, and we don't need that. Bring them up for 5 games, sum them down because they didn't do anything, and then they're forgotten about. We did that with Mark McLaughlin a couple times now, and now he's just, I don't think Bruins fans will ever get behind him again because of it. We're into the part of the season where these things are not going to help the players, these young kids. So I don't see what bringing them up is going to do. There's more opportunity for negative than there is for positive in bringing them up is kind of what I'm getting at. Obviously, they could come up and go off. That's always a possibility, but that's the lower end of the possibility. So I'm okay with leaving all the kids down in the HL right now and letting them build up some confidence and some consistent play with each other, and then trying it out later or at the start of next season. I'd like to jump back into the Wahlstrom thing for a quick second.
Sure.
He's from the area. I don't know if he's going to fit into the top 6. I just don't know who you would take out of there right now, unless you're talking about moving, say, like Geeky down to the 3rd line and you push him up. I think he might fit in on the 3rd line. It seems like that's the place that they've been most consistent with guys like Johnson and McLaughlin as the easiest one to replace right now. And in terms of the risk reward, Sam, I agree. Low risk, high reward. You look at a guy like Justin Brazeau last year, similar situation, right? Like younger kid, he's 26 now, so he's probably 25 when they signed him. And there was something there. And they re-signed him to I don't know if they re-signed him or, kept him around for another year, but it's one of those things where I'm sure all these contracts are prorated. So he was on a deal for $1 million. So we're probably down towards like 700, 600K at this point. So see what the kid got. If he got nothing, you put him back on waivers. And if he does, then, you might have a bit of a diamond in the rough here. He's only 24. He's only, a few years away from being an 11th overall pick in 2018. So the potential's there. He just got to find some sort of footing. And I'm not going to look too deep into the stats because you're playing on a 4th line for the Islanders. You're going to play better when you have better players around you. So if you can put him on a line with people who are more offensive minded than the 4th line people on the Islanders, then, there could be something here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of flashes from Wahlstrom.
My question to you, David, is, okay, so Merkulov is a free agent, right? He's an RFA at the end of the season. Lysell has another year left, but Merkulov's an RFA, and I've been hearing stuff about him possibly going back to Russia, right, if it doesn't work out. Wouldn't you want to see if this guy is given a consistent look in the NHL more than just like 5 or 6 games, like a 10, 15 game stretch, and see if this guy is an NHLer? And if he's not, then you can go from there. But if he is, maybe you could ponder that. I mean, hey, Poitras and Lysell aren't RFAs at the end of the season yet, I don't believe. Merkulov is. So that's my only concern. I don't want to let him walk away for nothing. If I want to give him an extended look, because if they do, then, and if he does pretty good, and that he's trade bait, you could trade him off and go get something better, or you could re-sign him and keep him around. You know what I mean? I don't want to let him go back to the KHL in Russia. I want to actually have him in the NHL in North America because that's where he belongs. He's a really good hockey player, and he shouldn't have to be relegated to go back to his homeland. He should want to play in the NHL, the Premier Hockey League, in my personal opinion.
You got to look at it from, I guess, the view side of the GM too. So if the agent is saying, you know what, Merkulov is going back to Russia next year, you guys don't have a shot, then okay. There's no real positive to bringing him up, because if they're saying that to Boston, they're going to be saying that to the other teams too, unless there's a very specific spot that he wants to go to play. Now, if him going back to Russia is dependent on getting the NHL minutes, that's a bit of a different story. I could definitely make a case for bringing him up and giving him an extended look, like you said, before the trade deadline, just to see if something sparks, whether it's keep him with the Bruins or there's another GM that says, you know what, you're going to fit in on our roster. We can keep you up in the NHL, things like that. But if he's already made up his mind, and at this point, I don't think we know. I don't know if we'll ever know, but he may have already made up his mind. And at that point, there's no trade value because he's saying the same thing to the other GM. So it could be a lost cause. But if it is a situation where it's dependent on AHL time, then yeah, I could see him getting a shot at some point. But again, I think they're going to want to try and right the ship a little bit more before they bring a guy up to use as trade bait like that. But only time is going to tell with these situations.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see here. What else we got? Who could be moved to acquire a top 6 scoring winger? Once again, I say this every time somebody asks this. You have to give to get. So you're going to have to give up a big piece to get a big piece. That's just the way of the land, right, Mark?
Yeah, and hopefully the money works out too.
Right.
Because the Bruins are right up against it, so money in, money out, just got to happen. I don't know. It's going to be interesting on how this Bruins management does this, moving forward. I'm like I said previously, earlier in the podcast, that I would much rather have them make a move sooner rather than later. Just so there's a decent time for a chemistry builder. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I really haven't taken a deep dive into seeing who could be that player. Maybe that's an article I might, do pretty soon. But yeah, I really don't know who would fit that and who would come in here and immediately work out with this current core.
Yeah, absolutely. Fluto Shinzawa tweeting out the Bruins refuse to change the power play units again. It's still the same old thing.
Jesus.
Hell's going to freeze over before they change the power play units, I swear to God. Let's see. Who's the hardest matchup coming up for Boston? The Oilers on Thursday?
I was going to say the next one. Doesn't matter who it is at this point. It's just
Exactly.
the next game is.
Dave, you're absolutely right. That's great.
True. That's very true. You're right.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that Lascelles and Merkulov are just AHL players?
Nope.
Merkulov, no. Lascelles, I don't know. We've never seen him in the NHL. At least we know what we're getting with Merkulov and Poitras, right? Lascelles, I don't know. Mark?
I'm kind of like, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and it's probably way wrong, and I'll hear about it. But I kind of get the feeling that if Lascelles doesn't crack the NHL roster this year, that he might ask for a trade or ask for a contract termination. I don't know. I mean, that's something I've been thinking about lately. I've seen players do it before if they can't get a chance because they look at the landscape ahead of them, and if they don't see any fit, they want out as soon as possible. I don't know. I kind of think that maybe, and I don't have any inside information or anything like that on this, but I kind of think that maybe Lascelles is the type of player that would like to play closer to home.
Interesting.
I'll hop in there for a sec, being the leader of the Fabian Lascelles bandwagon over here. Again, I don't like to speculate about these things because we don't know exactly what's going on. And if we were a bigger podcast, these are the times when people would be quoting us being like, Mark Allred said on the Black and Gold podcast that, and that's where these quotes are going to come from. But realistically, all these insiders and stuff, they have no knowledge of what's going on. Maybe the Bruins have an agreement with Lysel's camp that says he doesn't want to go to the NHL until he's ready. We don't know. But when it comes to just like, if you're looking at like natural fruition of a position within the NHL club, I think it's fair to say that Morgan Geekie and Tyler Johnson are on their last years with the Bruins. I don't expect either one of those back. So assuming the Bruins don't go out and pick up 2 wingers to fit both of those spots, there's a natural progression for Lysell to fit in with the second or third line right there, right? Obviously, we got a long way to go before we would consider him to be a top 6 winger. But you got to look at things like where he is right now. He's looking really positive, like offensively down in the AHL. He's looking like he's got some confidence down there as well. So if he can continue with that, and then next year comes and he has a great training camp and so on and so forth, and he comes up and he looks good, that's fantastic. That's exactly what you want to see. Again, he's a kid. I'm going to give him the rest of the year, see what we got. Obviously, it will depend on who's available at the trade deadline, if they want to move on from him, what his attitude is towards the Bruins, what his agent wants, what he wants. There's so many factors that go into these decisions. And as fans and podcasters like this, we're never really going to know. So we only speculate about what we think and stuff. So I don't think either one of them are only AHL players. I think they're both NHLers. They just need to be given the right opportunity to find their footing.
Mike Sullivan.
Mike Sullivan, ladies and gentlemen. I heard Lysell won't come to Boston until he signs an 8x8.5.
I'm unfollowing you on Twitter. That's it. I'm done. That's the last straw right there.
Oh my god. Oh god. Oh, that's great. Sorry, one. Kreider would change the power play quickly. Okay, here's the thing. Sure, if they were to bring in Kreider, he would be producing a couple more goals in the Bruins top unit for sure. However, at the same time, you have to give to get. And who are you going to give up? Who would the Rangers want to have to give up Kreider? And would they really want to give Kreider to the Bruins? That does not sound like a good idea. But if they were to do that, who would they want, right? Probably a package. Geekie, Frederick, Lysell probably.
And picks.
And a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Are we willing to part ways with all of that for one guy?
Who's, 33?
Exactly.
And on a 6.5 for the next 3 years or something crazy?
Are we really?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now on Puckpedia. 3 more years. That is going to – and at 33. It's like you do want to get somebody that's going to help facilitate the power play, but are you willing to give up a boatload for a 33-year-old that's still got 3 years of term? I don't know. And do you think that player is going to constantly produce on the man advantage? I don't know. It remains to be seen, obviously, but I don't think that's our guy, to be honest with you. I don't care if he's from Boxford, Mass, and he's a New Englander and this and that. I don't. It's just. Oh, I don't know.
Sam, can you highlight that message from Kenny Kaminsky? If anyone buys me a Don Loschmellish jersey, I will forever be in your good graces.
Oh, geez. Mike's heartbroken that you're going to unfollow him on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Very unfortunate. David, if you don't unfollow me, I will get you a UMass Loschmellish jersey like Kenny said.
My birthday's coming up in January. DM me. I'll give you my address. Done deal.
If you're going to unfollow Mike, do it for his nostalgia, his Bruins nostalgia. Oh, yeah. I mean, he did get he was spot on the Milan Lucic thing, though. But anything else, he loves that Bruins history.
Thank you. Getting back to the point at hand, if we're giving up a package of Frederick and Geekie and include the first round pick. Don't kill me. But if we're giving up a package like that, I don't want a 33-year-old. I want a 26, 27, 28-year-old with, maybe a 5.25 type of contract or something like that. But I want someone who's going to age with the team. Not someone that's already been aged.
Trevor Zegras. That would be something.
He's injured now.
It's a little too. I know he's injured, but when he's healthy, he's good. And when I wouldn't give up all that for Zegras, but like that's the type of player I'd want to bring in over Kreider. I'm throwing it out there. Oh, Mike's like, no. Yeah, no, it's over Kreider. He's younger. He fits that identity. Yeah. No to Zegras. Why not? He's a good player. I don't know.
I think if we're looking like from the outside, when we're talking about the trade deadline, just a couple names to throw out there. Like Zegras is obviously going to be one. Kreider is going to be one. Capo Caco might be there. Break for Toronto. Maybe David Savard. Like I don't know. There's not a lot out there that's really, tickling my fancy right now. But you never know. And again, we're talking, like I said last podcast, we're talking to all these dudes, and guaranteed Sweeney's going to go out and get someone completely different. So,
yeah. Marty Necas. Now that okay, all right, fine, sure. That would be fun. That would be fun. But I don't know. We're sitting here just shooting the shit, speculating on whatever. But that could be interesting. If the Bruins were to try to go after Marty Necas, that would fix a couple of issues.
Mm-hmm.
Top 6 scorer. He's doing pretty well down in Carolina right now. But once again, I introduce, would the Hurricanes really want to give Marty Necas to the Bruins?
Probably not.
Probably not. Got to think about rivalries, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll say Zegras could help the power play, but I don't know. He grosses me out, that little trick shot TikTok artist. Mike Sullivan is secretly John Tortorella. Did you hear his comments the other day about the Matvei Michkov of Michigan attempts?
Yeah.
He's saying that his tone has changed. Holy crap. It's like the NHL evolves, Guys, let's be real. We're going to get Brock Nelson. Not a bad thing. I don't mind Brock Nelson.
Yeah, still an age thing, though.
Gabe Vilardi. Ooh. But wait a minute.
That's a good name.
The Jets wouldn't want to give up Vilardi, though. He's doing pretty well out there. And plus, the Jets are on a run. But that could be if the Bruins were to bring in Vilardi, that would be fun for many different reasons. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Well, we're still months out from the deadline, but here's my thing. If your team's if you want to win now, don't wait till the trade deadline. Make a move now, It's kind of my
I'm on board with that.
The deadline just there is the last day you could make a trade. There's nothing that says you can't make a trade today or tomorrow or next week or whatever. I would not be surprised if the Bruins make a move before the holiday freeze.
Bear Force One has one. I like that. Yep.
I have been on the Alex Tuch to the Bruins train for 2 years. 2 years.
And honestly, look for Buffalo to be a little bit of some sellers.
If the Bruins were to get Alex Tuch, holy shit.
How many Tuchs would he have?
Too many. So many. You'd have so many Tuchs. He tucks in the rebound. Ha-ha. Alex Tuch would be a godsend. See?
There you go.
Contract isn't too bad. It isn't too bad. It's like 5.25, I think. It's not bad. Dylan Cousins? Okay. Yeah.
He's more of a shit disturber, isn't he? Over a goal scorer?
He's got some scoring touch on him, though.
Okay.
Bring back Tyler Bertuzzi?
No. I'd rather bring back Taylor Hall over him.
Mike, you're gonna get unfollowed real quick, man.
If we're gonna go to Chicago, the Chicago Bruins, real quick. Tage Thompson, that's like trading Jack Eichel. The Sabres will never get rid of their franchise guy. Oh wait, they already did. They could. No, Zach Hamill, enough from you. Enough from you. No.
Captain Nostage.
God, but
That's
hey,
funny.
if the Bruins were to bring back, if the Bruins were to bring in Alex Tuck, not Zach Hamill, Christ, Alex Tuck, that would be really interesting because the Bruins could actually use him on the second line right wing. So, very interesting. All right. Enough debating and speculating on who the Bruins could bring in. Alex Tuck could be fun, though. That's it for this episode of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this one. We broke some news to you live. Wahlstrom's a Bruin. If we agree, regardless if we agree with it or not. We talked about it 30 minutes before it happened. It could be interesting. Well, it happened. Wahlstrom is officially a Boston Bruin. Very intriguing. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast, you're watching live on YouTube and Facebook and X and Twitch, make sure to please do us a big favor. Follow us on social media if you have not yet. You can go follow Mark at BlackGold277. You can go follow David at DC_709. You can go follow me at Sam Smith on YT. I am calling the Bruins-Canucks game on YouTube tonight, 10 p.m. puck drop over on my YouTube channel. Make sure to come by and say hello. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to please hit the like button and subscribe to the Black and Gold Productions YouTube channel if you have not yet. Make sure to hit that bell to get notified every single time we go live or upload here on the channel. If you have not, if you're listening audibly on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iHeart, make sure to drop us a follow and a 5-star rating. It helps us out, and it makes us become one of the top hockey podcasts out there. The Bruins are on tonight. We'll see if they can pull out a dub against the Canucks. We'll see how the rest of this road trip goes. We'll be back with you next week for episode 375 of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. And maybe by next week, Oliver Wahlstrom could be the second coming of Jesus Christ. Or will he just be another guy off the street? Who knows? We'll see you guys next week for episode 375 of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. For Mark, David, and myself, signing off for now. We'll see you guys next week.